Nice to have so many good mornings already. Good morning, Sky. Good morning, John Paul. You really smashed it in English, didn't you? Well done. Good morning, Zach. Morning, Chloe D. Right, time for us to get started. So today is Tuesday, the 12th of May, and today in maths, we are going to learn how to calculate percentages of amounts. So I hope you're all well and you had a great rest over the long weekend um, and managed to enjoy some sunshine. And actually, I'm starting my lesson as Miss Francois ended hers pupil voice next week. Um, what would you like me to cover? So we have multiplied 4 digits by 1 and 2 digit numbers. We've multiplied and divided by 10, 100 and 1,000. We've solved problems with multiplication and division. We've rounded. We are learning about percentages today, and our next lesson will be about reading tables. So if there's anything that you would like me to go back over to cover in your pupil voice lesson, just message me on the comments and I'll make sure that I include it. So, right, so let's start. I had a little bit of a play yesterday. Mr. Coxon wanted a Bitmoji for our amazing new virtual page, and I found some new ones whilst I was there. So I found a new listen one that actually says listen. And then I found this one, which I thought was quite nice because it's kind of like we're presenting with the microphone and the camera and the telephone in the middle. So I just thought I'd play with those for a couple of days, just something new. But they all mean the same as usual, obviously. If I want you to listen, that means I'm teaching you something, and it's important that you are listening at that moment in time. And if I want you to write, it means you are taking part in the lesson and you are going to write something for me. So hope you've all got your pencils, pens, pieces of papers ready because we will be doing some calculating today. So you are going to need to jot a few things down. Good morning, Chloe B. Right, so today's learning outcomes. We have to be able to understand what percent means at the end of this lesson. We need to know and understand what percent means. Percent means out of 100, per, part of, cent, 100, part of 100. And to be able to apply our prior learning in division and multiplication, you're going to have to think way back to when we divided by 10, 100 and 1,000. And if you can remember that, that is going to be really useful for you today. And we are, of course, going to be able to find percentage of amounts, fingers crossed, by the end of the lesson. It's not as tricky as it might be. Okay, so you had an amazing English lesson, so many contributions and so thoughtful. I love reading your comments when you're in English. So today, to turn your maths brain on. Cycle repair. If 4 people can repair 4 bicycles in 4 hours, how many bicycles can 8 people repair in 8 hours? I'll say that again. If 4 people can repair 4 bicycles in 4 hours, how many bicycles can 8 people repair in 8 hours? Over to you. Wonder who's going to be first to come through. Oh, Cole, but think about it. Remember, it's one of my maths teasers, so it's not always as simple as you think it is. Well done, Amy D, the first correct answer. Chloe and Abu, do you want to, and Sky, do you want to go back and just think about that? It's not as easy as you think. Danielle, I've caught a lot of you out this morning. I'm feeling very, very pleased with myself. Oh, some a good try, but a bit too many there. Oh, Callum, they've got to be able to calculate more than they started with. Oh, John Paul, almost there, caught you out in my teaser trap this morning. I'm feeling very pleased. We've got one correct answer at the moment. Olivia, it's got to be more than 4 because that's how many 4 people can repair in 4 hours. Oh, that's a lot, Chloe. Oh, I think I'm going to put you out of your misery. So 4 people can repair 4 bicycles in 4 hours. That means in 4 hours, 8 people can repair 8 bicycles. So they can repair in 8 hours 16. Good morning, Jay. 16 bicycles. So it was 16. I'm so pleased with so many answers coming through, but I think this one goes down to me today with only one correct answer. So well done though for all of you. It's lovely to see your name coming through. Good morning, Harley, with so many answers and so quickly. It's amazing. So let's go on to today's learning then. So previous learning, what we need to know in order to learn find percentages of amounts. I've got so carried away with 16 and bicycles then that thank you for the correct answer in the end, Zach, thank you. And Summer and Jay. We need, so from our previous learning, what we need to know, how to divide by 10. That's going to be really, really important in our learning today. How to multiply accurately, so using our multiplication skills correctly so that we get the correct answers. Good morning, Demi, and that percent means out of 100, okay, a part of 100. So, our mathematical talk. What we have previously learned, okay, so this is what we have previously learned. We have learned that a percentage is a number or a ratio expressed as a fraction out of 100, taking us back to what percentage means out of 100. When we talk about percentages, we imagine that a whole has been divided into 100 equal parts. That's very, very important. I'm going to say that again so that we understand. A percentage is a number or ratio expressed as a fraction of 100 because percent means part of 100. When we talk about percentages, we imagine that a whole has been divided up into 10 equal parts. Let's have a look what this looks like. So we've got a square that has been divided up into 100 smaller squares. Okay, one square is shaded out of 100, so that is 1/100th. So as a percent, that is 1%. 1%, one part out of the 100 has been shaded, so it's 1%. And now we've got 10 parts. 10 parts out of 100 that have been shaded. So 10 squares shaded out of 100 is 10/100ths. 10 parts out of 100. So our line here, 10 parts out of 100, which means 10% of our square is shaded. 10 squares out of the 100 is 10%. So What we've previously learned is the relationship between fractions, decimals, and percentages, and they're really, really interconnected, and it really helps our understanding if we grasp this. So we'll have a look. So 10%, we've just said, is 10 parts out of the 100 that is shaded. So that would be represented as 1/10 as a fraction, or 0.1 as a decimal. 25%, that is 25 squares coloured in, is a quarter of our 100 squares. So we've divided it up into 4 parts just so that we can see this clearly. And that, as a decimal, is 0.25. Okay, so a quarter is equal to 25%. So here, 50%, so that is 50%, 50 of our squares out of the 100 are shaded. So we now have half of our 100 squares shaded, 50 of them are shaded, which is a half. And as a decimal, that is written as 0.5. And then finally, 75%, 75 squares out of our 100 have been coloured. So that, as you can see, 3/4 of our squares have now been shaded, and that is equal to 0.75 as a percentage. Okay, so we've got, good morning, Atmal, 10 parts out of 100, 10%. 25 parts out of 100, 25%. 50 parts out of the 100, 50%. And 75 parts out of the 100, 75%. And this is their fraction and decimal equivalents. And that is what we have previously learned. So, as we continue our mathematical talk, we're going to calculate some percentage of amount. And we're going to start simple. We'll find 10% of 360. Now, I don't want you to calculate this for me just yet. I am going to model how to calculate this for you. And there are 2 ways we can do it using our previous knowledge. Okay? So step 1, we have got to divide 360 by 10. In order to find 10%, we need to divide 360 by 10. Step 2, the calculation. We'll write the calculation down so we know what it looks like. So that is how the calculation would be written down. So you help me this moment in time. Think, what do we already know? Thinking about the calculation, what we've got to carry out. What do we already know? What have we learned over these live lessons that's really going to help us here? So who can help me here? Good morning, Isla. What's going to really help me? What have we already learned that is going to help me? Who can tell me? There's a real big clue in the calculation here. And I did actually mention it at the beginning of the lesson when I said what we'd learned over our live lessons. So what do we already know that's going to help us? What do we know? Tell me the clues here. What do we already know? What have we learned? Big clue here. We could use the bus shelter method. We did learn about short division. Some of that is correct. But what about this calculation? What about this calculation here? What did we specifically spend our whole live lesson learning about? That is kind of correct, John Paul, but we cannot say that we take away the zero because that doesn't work mathematically. We can say that if we take away the zero, it doesn't mean that we're carrying out a mathematical operation. What do we do? What do we physically do? We don't take away the zero, we do something. Hopefully that'll give a few more of you a clue out there. So I've got John Paul says dividing by 10 means you take away the zero, but we don't quite take away the zero. What do we actually do? So we have learned our multiplying and dividing by 10, 100 and 1,000. And so that is definitely going to help us. But what do we know about dividing by 10? John Paul is almost there, except he just needs to just fine tune it mathematically. Because we don't take away the zero, we do something. Good morning, Safi. What do we do with the place value, Maisie? Almost there. What do we do with the place value when we divide by 10? What happens? Come on, guys, I didn't think this would be... Oh, Isla, we do move, but when we divide, we move. Well done. Is that... Summer? Yep, Summer, you were right with we move right one column. And Cole, yep, we move one place value to the right. So thank you for your answers there, guys. I think we might have to try and revisit that in our over to you session if you'd like to. When you divide a number by 10, you move one place value to the right. Okay, and if you know that and you can jot place value, good morning, Lexi, you know that, and you then it will really, really help you when you come to find 10% of an amount. So finding 10% of 360, I have used my place value method first. I have written 360 under my hundreds, tens and units column. They're not quite lined up, sorry about that. They do look lined up when I make the slides, but it's roughly there. The hundreds here, the tens here, and the units here. So I've written 360 using place value. Step 5, I move one place value to the right. So I move in this direction. So my 0 is no longer a placeholder. I don't need it. My 6 moves from the tens to the units column, and my 3 moves from the hundreds to the tens column. So I now have 36. Step 6, the answer. 10% of 360 is 36. But of course, some of you brought up that we could use the bus shelter method, and that is acceptable. And that's a method that I've covered in our lesson today. So we could always use short division, the bus stop method, the bus shelter method. Okay, so I built my bus shelter very slowly, and I've written in my calculation. So 3 divided by 10, I can't do it. So 0. I carry the 3. 36 divided by 10 is 3. 3 times 10 is 30. Gives me a remainder of the difference between 30 and 36, which is 6. So 60 divided by 10 is 6. So 10% of 360 is 36. So finding 10% of an amount can be quite easy, really. And so I'm going to give it over to you, using whichever method you prefer, using place value or the bus shelter method. Find me 10% of 590. Okay, so step 1, the calculation, 590 divided by 10. Oh, Zach, quick off the mark. Amy, excellent, well done. With our fastest fingers. Zach, you got so excited, you put it in twice. Isla, well done. Harris, well done. Lexi, Summer, excellent, well done, guys. Oh, Cole, we started with 590, so we can't have 590 in the answer. Excellent, Jay. Oh, Chloe, we don't need a decimal point or a 0 in that answer. It gives it a completely different answer if you put the 0 and the decimal point in it. So you're almost there, you just don't need your 0 and your decimal point. Maisie, super well done. John Paul, well done. Demi, excellent. Sky, don't know whether I missed you, sorry. Callum W, brilliant, well done. That was nice and easy, wasn't it? And so we can do it again, either using our place value method, jotting down a place value chart and moving everything one place value to the right because we are dividing by 10. So 10% of 590 is 59. I thought you did, Cole. I thought you might have put the extra digit there in your haste to get it written down. So, and again, the bus shelter method. If you use the bus shelter method, it works exactly the same as it did in our previous example. 5 divided by 10 is 0. 59 divided by 10 is 5. The difference between 50 and 59 is 9. So I've got a remainder of 9. 90 divided by 10 is 9. So we have our answer, 10% of 590 is 59. Now, I wasn't quite sure this morning how quickly we'd get this. So there is another example of finding me 10% of a number. And I'm still going to let you do that because if we're in the classroom, we probably would go through more than one example. So again, whichever method you prefer, find me 10% of 270. Zach, Lexi, Amy, excellent, well done. Isla, Zach, Summer, Callum, just a stream of correct answers coming in, well done. Maisie, Caris, excellent. Demi, Sky, all very positive guys this morning. So many correct answers. Well done. So again, we can calculate using, oh, Chloe, try not to put the 0 and the point. The 0 and the point. You don't need a 0 and a point because it is a tens and a units amount. So you've got a 10 and a unit. You only need a decimal point if you have a value after the unit. Hello, Atma. Is that the first time I've seen you this morning? Good morning. Whole correct, yes. So we move. So unless we've got a digit that comes after our units, we don't need a decimal point. The answer should be a whole number. So 10% of 270 is 27. And again, I've put it in the shelter method if that's how you prefer to calculate. Okay, so 10% of 270 equals 27. Excellent, you've got that really, really well. So we're going back to listening for a moment now. We're going to step it up. So what happens if I have to calculate more than 10% of an amount? Suddenly, I've got to stop and think. And so I'm going to take you through how to do that now. Okay, so I'm going to find 40% of 420. Step 1, I'm going to jot down the calculation so it's clear in my head what calculation I'm carrying out. I'm carrying out 420 divided by 40. And to do that, the first thing I'm going to do is find 10%, because I know finding 10% of 420, as you've just shown me, is really quite easy. So I'm going to find 10% first. Using my place value method, I'm going to move my 420 one place value to the right because I'm dividing, and that gives me 42. Now, whatever happens, do not stop there because the question asks for 40% of 420. And so far, I've found 10% of 420. So I then have to multiply 42 by 4. And the reason I multiply it by 4 is because I wanted 40%. I found 10% here, but I want 40%, and there's 4 lots of 10 in 40%. So I now need to multiply 42 4 times because it is 40%. If it were 20%, I'd multiply it twice. If it was 70%, I'd multiply it 7 times. If it was 90%, I'd multiply it 9 times. Okay? So we're listening for the moment because I'm taking you through step by step how to calculate more than 10% of an amount. So we're finding 40%. So to make life easy for myself, I'll go over this again. I use my place value method because I know that when I divide by 10, I move everything one place value to the right, and I can do that quite quickly. So I've got 42, but I've got 4 times 42. Thanks for the answers, guys, but we've got a listen icon here, which means that's what you should be doing at this moment. Okay, so the calculation, 4 times 42. And I have calculated 4 times 42 in 2 ways. I've used a short multiplication method. So 4 times 2 is 8. And 4 times 4, I'll say 4 even though it's 40. So 4 times 4 or 4 times 40 is 160 or 16. So my answer is 168. Or I can partition to multiply. So I can say 4 times 40 or 4 times 4, because that makes it mathematically easier for me. 4 times 4 is 16, but I have to remember that it was 40, so it's 160 and not 16. And then 4 times 2, which is 8, and then I add them together. 8 add 0 is 8, 6 add 0 is 6, and 1 add 0 is 1. Okay, so it's going back to remembering that you find 10% first, and then you multiply it by the amount of percent you want to find. So because we're stepping it up, we're going to do our next stage together. Okay, so I want you working with me. So 40% of 420 is 168. We're going to work together. So we're going to listen and we're going to write. Okay, so giving it a go together. So we're going to find 60% of 190. Who can tell me what I need to do first? What's the first thing I need to do? Over to you. Okay, excellent. Amy, Isla, Summer, Lexi. Okay, I have put my first step as writing the calculation down. That's my mathematical brain. I write out my calculation so I know what I need to do. So I need to find 10% of 190. So who is going to tell me what 10% of 190 is? And that should only take you a few seconds because you were so fast at doing this the first time. Has someone gone ahead of me and written the answer? We're supposed to be giving it a go together. Remember, listening and writing, giving it a go together. Excellent, Lexi and Zach. That is correct. My 10% of 190 is 19. Well done to Amy, amazing. So what I have now found 10% of 190. Who can tell me what I need to do now? Well done, Zach and Summer. You found 10%. And Sky, well done. Who can tell me what my next step is? Well done, John Paul and Caris. Excellent, Amy. First one in with the correct answer. The first one in with an answer, but your answer was also correct. So that's brilliant. Summer, brilliant. Yeah. Well, Zach, I don't want to find 6%. I want to find what percentage am I working with? Excellent, Lexi. That is correct. Isla, that is correct. Maisie. Tell you what, Summer and Amy, if Miss Ward wants a maths team like she did this year, I think we'd stand a good chance with you two on the same team, because you should fly the flags for your class Yes, John Paul, that's what I need to do. I now need to times 19 by 6. So 19 times 6. I left 4 on there. Okay, so who can tell me what my answer will be? That's right, Zach needed to find 60%, multiplying by 6. Well done, Lexi. You've got ahead with the correct answer. Well done, Amy. Well done, Isla. Zach, well done. I think there will be some really, really strong maths team members from both classes to go on a team. I think we could make several teams, in fact. Well done, Caris and Cole. Maisie, well done. Let's have a look then. I did that way. 6 times 4 is 6 times 9 even. 6 times 9 is 54. 4 carry my 5. 6 times 10 is 60, or 6 add 5 is 11, which is actually 110. Or if you partitioned it 6 times 10 and 6 times 9, you would still come up with the same answer, just a different way. And it's whatever way suits you when you calculate your answers. If you prefer a short division method, that's fine. If you find it easier to partition, that's equally fine. However you decide to calculate, that is entirely up to you. But you must always remember to check your answers. Go through it again just to check. Okay, so now I am going to put it over to you. Okay, so 60% of 190 equals 114. I'm putting it over to you now. Find me 80% of 660. Well, Zach, well done. Amy, closely behind Zach. You were just like a millisecond behind him with the correct answer. Oh, do you want to check that answer for me, Isla, please? Remember, it was 80%, so it would be 8 times. Well done, Summer and Caris. Would you just want to check your calculations, Sky? Maisie, Cole, excellent, well done. John Paul, well done. Thank you, Lexi. You've even put me the calculation that you've completed in there. Okay, so let's go over the answers together. That's it, Isla, well done. So my calculation was 660 divided by 80. And I've used my place value method, finding 10%. Well done, Safi. And so my calculation should have been 8 times 66. So 10% of 660 is 66, and 8 times 66. Our calculation looks like that, and 8 times 6 or 6 times 8, whichever way you do it, is 48. And you've got the same calculation there, but I carried my 4, so it becomes 52. So my answer is 528. Or I could have completed it using partitioning, and I would still end up with the same answer. So you've smashed it out of the park today. I'm really, really impressed. Well done. And I kept this quite simple for us today, because you can have decimal answers in when you find percentages of amounts, but I've kept it to just finding percentages that would give us a whole number rather than a decimal, just to see how we went with this learning. So you can have decimal answers. So if you go into your doodle task and you find that it's a point something because you move place value, then that's okay. You can have decimal answers. So I've finished quite a little bit early today because you've done so well. So if you have time now, start your doodle maths, find percentages of amounts whilst it's still in there, and you can go straight into it. Lunch, 12:15 till 1, and then complete the doodle activities for English and math. And then after that, you've got some science, which is a really lovely lesson today. I've made it very, very interactive, and I'm just going to add my video for it. Getting very brave now, making all these videos to give you an explanation of what you need to do on your science. So have a great lunch, a little bit of a rest, super afternoon, enjoy your science. Thank you. Oh, that's a lovely message, Zach. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed being with you today. And I'll see you all on Thursday when we will be reading timetables, not times tables, timetables, which could be quite tricky. So we'll need our math brain switched on. Okay, and don't forget your pupil voice. Just type a comment in now to let me know what you'd like me to go over again, from multiplying 4 digits by 1 digits, but we've just been doing a bit of that and you've been doing amazing well. Multiplying by 10, 100 and 1,000, dividing by 10, 100 and 1,000, solving mathematical problems with multiplication and division, rounding, percentages. Just let me know and I'll start to plan the lesson for you. So have a lovely afternoon and bye for now. Bye.